Happy Halloween here from Pages from the Dark Side.
I didn't know we were going to do that.
It's a Halloween episode.
I know, but I didn't know we were going to just start out with that. You don't have to clap it again. I'll have it.
Well, now I've brought it up, so now we have to do it.
Oh my god, okay, go ahead.
Happy Halloween! From Pages from the Dark Side here, the monthly book club podcast with a specialization in spooky. I am your host, Dylan Ludwig, aka Mr. Hyper-Aware, and with me, as always, is my lovely and spooky co-host,
Alyssa Ludwig, also known as the Earbud Bookworm. And we are here with a special bonus episode talking about one of the things that kind of got a lot of people into horror back in the 90s.
especially us.
Goosebumps.
We're talking Goosebumps, baby. Man,
If you couldn't tell by my side ponytail.
And your X-Files 90s shirt
Yes.
that scrunched up that I Want to Believe.
Love it.
Thank you, Cabinet
All right.
Colors, for that one.
Obviously, anybody that's listening to this in just audio, if I've figured that out by now, then you have no idea what we're talking about. But if you're watching us on a video podcast, then...
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and also put a spoiler warning out there, even though I don't really know how much in detail we're going to get into a lot of these titles
I'm
here.
going to be honest, a lot of them I don't... I wrote down stuff I want to talk about. I don't remember why I love these ones. I just remember that I love them. So,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of plot. Sorry.
So, first, we should probably talk about, because I don't even remember where Goosebumps originated for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like one of those things that, it was
just there.
It was just always around.
Yeah.
Even though it was a very recent creation in the time period I was born in, it was just kind of always there, and it was just always in the zeitgeist. So it was just something that I ended up coming across at libraries going what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And, and then as I would read them and the show became super popular, that 95 series,
Mm-hmm.
I just threw myself head first
Oh,
into
yeah.
them. And
Oh, yeah.
so I talked about in the last episode, our Final Girls episode, of how that's the slasher movies were really kind of my gateway into horror movies, but I think my gateway into horror as a genre,
Mm-hmm.
period, has to start from this.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what kind of person I would be without getting into this very early on.
I agree for myself as well.
Yeah.
And I realized while researching for this episode, which obviously I didn't research enough, sorry. But while researching for this episode, I realized there are actually several from the original series that I never read.
Yeah. Well, the original run is 62 books in the series.
Right, yeah, and I'd say probably there were at least a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
While I was looking through the Wikipedia, there was at least a dozen where I was like, I never read this one.
Yeah.
It might have, and there was a few where I'm like, I might have read this, but I'm not sure.
And that's not even counting all the offshoot series, such as
Right.
Goosebumps 2000 and
Give Yourself Goosebumps.
which
I loved that one.
Yeah, which I've got a couple of them sitting here, but
Mm-hmm.
I love them because they were the choose your own adventure style
Yeah.
of those. Some of which we're not going to. So for this, we're going to talk about our top 5 favorite Goosebumps books.
Mm-hmm.
And as a bonus, we'll also talk about our top 5 favorite episodes of the Goosebumps 90s TV show.
Right.
Before we dive into that, though, a couple of things that I want to bring up. One
Mm-hmm.
is that we brought up Give Yourself Goosebumps. I read the shit out of a lot of those books. I can't remember them offhand.
Yeah,
but
no, I
some
don't
of them,
either.
some of them would get into really kind of messed up territory.
Oh, super off the
There was
wall, just
one- there's one that-
bizarre stuff.
There's one I have here called TikTok You're Dead, which is a time travel one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a point where it travels you back in time to the Cretaceous, one of the Cretaceous period, I think, whichever period had T-Rexes in it. And
That sounds right.
you get chased by a T-Rex and you drop your time machine device, and it gives you the choice to either go back for it or keep running. And I stupidly said, go back for it. And that next chapter said, the T-Rex ate you.
Yep.
And I'm just like,
Well, duh.
the hell? Like, I didn't think that this would go that hardcore. And that's like, because, like, you know, eventually R.L. Stine would go even harder with his Fear Street series.
Right, yeah. and he wrote other, like, older books.
Yeah.
Too. One reason that I really latched onto Goosebumps was finding out that R.L. Stine was from Ohio.
Yeah.
And even though I wasn't born in Ohio, I basically grew up in Ohio.
Yep.
Like, I moved here when I was, like, not even 2 years old. So.
Yep. And I'm born and raised here.
Right.
He has written more books than Stephen King.
Oh, yeah.
Which not a lot of people like to talk about, but one of the other things, because we're going to talk about the original run books, and we're going to talk about the series in a second here, but there have been other Goosebumps media since then.
Yeah.
So for one, we've had the movies that came out.
Yeah, the Jack Black movies.
Well, one of them has Jack Black.
Oh, okay. Well, I call them the Jack Black movies. I've only seen the first one, right?
Just the first one.
Yeah.
I own both of them, but you only watched the first one.
Yeah, well,
but
that's the only one that mattered.
But what did you think of that one?
It was amusing.
Yeah.
It wasn't great by any means, but it was fun.
Because it wasn't scary. It definitely leaned more into being a comedy.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely campy. It was very, very campy.
But Jack Black as R.L. Stine is amusing as hell.
Yes, definitely.
I didn't really watch the sequel either. That one has no Jack Black in it because he was off shooting House with the Clock in its Walls with Eli Roth. And that one is all very slappy focused. And it's got the kid who plays Ben in the It movies.
Okay, yeah.
The overweight kid. I didn't watch that one, so I couldn't comment on that. But also, since then, we've had another Goosebumps series last year, which is definitely way more serious.
Yeah.
Very CW teen-ish.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely a little more for the older crowd. Because, like, the Goosebumps, the books, and the 90s TV show were definitely geared towards, like, elementary school age. Like, obviously not, like, kindergarten, but, like, older elementary to, like, younger middle school age.
Yeah, it's like... I don't know if preteen would be the correct age group.
Yeah, like I'd say like probably between like 4th and 6th grade or something is kind of where it seems to be aimed. Whereas the newer show seems to definitely be aimed at like teenagers.
It goes pretty hardcore in a lot of places.
It does. There's definitely some older themes in it, and it's scary.
It's also at least that the seasons are not anthologies. It's one continuous story.
Right, now, but the series is an anthology.
Because they announced that...
Because each season is its own story.
They're American Horror Storying it. Right. So the first season had this whole entire storyline with these, like, this house that filled with all these cursed objects that each of the kid would pick up, which were all references to different books.
Right.
And Justin Long was the villain.
Yeah.
Which, you know... I guess it's better for him than working for Uncle Richard at Honda. That's an inside joke. But they announced a season 2, and this one will have David Schwimmer in it, which I think will be very interesting.
I'm assuming he's going to be the villain. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Who knows? But I like the casting, and I'm very excited to see where they go with it.
Yeah, because I actually really liked that first season.
I did too.
I went into it with low expectations because I'm attached to the property, and also just... I don't know, that kind of stuff very often does not turn out well.
I was very hesitant about it because they were going so dark with it.
Yeah.
When I think of Goosebumps, I think of this very middle ground between scary but also very fun and campy.
Right, yeah.
And that show is very serious in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has some humor in it.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of character drama. They even talk about stuff that's a little bit older in subject matter. Right. Like identity issues and sexuality and, you know, this whole entire, like, cover-up that their parents did. Bullying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's deep.
It doesn't pull punches.
It doesn't. No, it was good.
It was good, yeah. But now, with that out of the way, let's go back to the original, the OG, our favorite books and our favorite episodes of that show. Yeah. So, where should we start?
Well, here's, I guess, a question is, are we going to, like, go back and forth? Are we going to each do our top 5 to begin with? Where did your paper go?
I got it right here.
Okay.
I hand wrote mine, so...
I didn't. Mine's on my laptop. It's over there, because that's where we record our audio.
So, yeah.
So how do we want to do this? Like, do we want to do, like, I do my 5 books, you do your 5 books, I do my 5 episodes, you do your 5 episodes,
I was thinking we could
or
go,
vice versa?
I was thinking we could go back and forth.
Back and forth, so, like,
So
I do one book, you do one book?
Yep. You do one book, I do one book, and then we alternate and do one episode.
Okay. So, excuse me. So to start with, I don't know what kind of rules you might have had for yourself when you made your list.
Mm-hmm.
But I purposefully made sure not to choose a book and an episode of the same title.
I did the same thing too, yeah.
There were some that I do really like the book and the episode,
Mm-hmm.
but I made sure, like, okay, well, I prefer this one as the book. Then I'd pick it as the book.
That's exactly what my rules were.
Okay, so I'm not going to have any repeats between my books and my episodes, but we might have repeats between our lists, and we have not compared lists yet.
If we do have a crossover on certain things, then we can kind of, I'll interject and be like, I've got that one here too.
Right.
So,
and then also of note, like I said in the beginning, I didn't have much time to prepare for this just because life is life and I don't have much free time.
We're
going
by our heart here.
I don't remember all of the plot lines, and I also might remember some things wrong. And so if you want to call me out in the comments and be like, that is not how that story played out, absolutely go for it. I'm not going to be offended. I know that I'm not remembering things right.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
So, I'll go ahead and start actually with an episode of the TV show.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to do books first and then episodes, but that's fine.
I'll go book first.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll go book first.
Okay.
So, let's see, because I don't have these. These are not ranked. These are just all kind of collectively on their own thing.
Yeah, that's how mine are too.
But I'm gonna go ahead and start with the book that was the first book and the first episode of the show that I ever watched, and that's the first book in the series, Welcome to Dead House.
Okay. Solid choice.
But the reason that I actually, because I like the episode of the show as well, but the reason that I like the book more than that episode of the show is that this was before the etiquette of Goosebumps started to become established, and there are people, like characters and animals that fucking die in the book, and horribly as well.
Oh yeah.
If you're not familiar with it, Welcome to Dead House is about this family that moves into this new neighborhood where they start to come afoul of these like just really kind of creepy inhabitants who avoid the sun of the town, that avoid the sunlight at all costs. Come to find out that there was this chemical spill that happened at a plant nearby that killed a fair percentage of the people in that town. They came back as undead, and they are feasting on blood of living people. So they're kind of vampire-ish as well. I don't own it, unfortunately. It's not in the stack here. Because it would be at the end here, but unfortunately not that case.
Yeah. Well, I know for sure that I had it, but I gave my sibling all of my Goosebumps books, so I have none anymore.
Big shout out to my mom for bringing these from her house over to this house. A lot of these are kind of stained and damaged, but they're still in fair use. But yeah, no, that book is. I really like that book compared to the show because that one just goes hard.
Yeah.
And it goes hard really quickly as well. But yeah, so that would be where I'm starting on the book side of things. Okay. What about you?
So the first book that I picked is Werewolf Skin, and I literally do not remember the plot at all, so...
I have a crossover here.
Yeah?
Werewolf Skin is in my top 5 of episodes of the show.
Ha! Well, when we get to it, you can tell us what the plot is, because I don't remember, so you can go ahead and do your next book.
Oh, you don't want to talk about Werewolf Skin here?
I don't remember. I just remember I loved it.
I'll talk about Werewolf Skin right now.
Well, I mean, why don't you talk about it when you get to the episode?
All right, well.
Let's just do it that way. It's
all
fine.
Right, well,
it's fine.
Well, I'll talk about it now.
People love to hear your voice.
Because now we're on the episode of the show, and I'll just jump to Werewolf Skin.
All right, that's fine.
So this story deals with this kid who goes to visit his grandparents, and there are these very odd things happening. There are like farm animals that are getting taken out, and like fences that are getting destroyed, and come to find out that there are werewolves around. But the twist of this is that there is not werewolves in the conventional sense. It is these skins that people who are infected with lycanthropy have to go put on and wear to go become werewolves.
I remembered loving this, and I couldn't remember why. That's why.
Yeah. So it's like the Venom symbiote sort of thing. Like both can exist like on their own, but in order to actually like be operational, they both need each other.
Yeah.
And, there's obviously a common theme with all the Goosebumps books is that the adults don't believe the kids on anything that's going on. But in this case, there's a reason for it is because, his grandparents are infected with lycanthropy and the skins belong to them. And,
Ooh.
yeah. And, I just thought it was a really fun and cool take on werewolf mythos. And I don't remember the book all that well, but I owned the VHS copy of the 2-part episodes of that show.
Nice.
All the episodes of the show have some questionable acting in them.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that much about it.
For sure.
But
I think it was, for the time period, I think it was,
It's campy.
It was on par with Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, which I didn't watch.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I know you were a bigger fan.
Well, I feel
of
like that was a little bit before your time.
Yeah.
Because for anybody that doesn't know, I am definitely older than he is.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess it's my turn to pick an episode, and
Yeah.
so I am picking Stay Out of the Basement, which was a 2-parter, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
Tie Time, I also have that as an episode on mine.
All right. Well, I guess
Let's just talk about it now.
We'll just talk about it now. So that one I do remember, and I actually think we might have watched it a little more recently with our nephew. I don't know if you were here for that, but I know they were really into watching Goosebumps for a while, and so I did get to rewatch some of the old episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So Stay Out of the Basement is these 2 kids, and their dad keeps telling them, stay out of the basement. And, because that's the stereotype in horror movies, you want to stay out of the basement. But they get interested, and they want to know what's going on down there. And he's got all these weird plant things down there. And things are really weird. And as it turns out, their dad's actually a plant.
Because he's acting super weird at a certain point. And, it turns out there's some body snatcher shit going on there.
No, I loved that. That was, as a kid, that was like one of those things I was terrified.
There's creepy as hell visuals in episode of the show.
No.
When they
that terrified me as a kid.
When they actually go down into the basement, there's like the plant hand in a
pot,
like human hand in a pot. And then they open up this cocoon and there's a face inside of it.
Nope.
It's so fucked up.
Terrified me, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Because it was like a safe scare,
Yeah. All right.
All right,
So, on to the book side of things.
Don't look at my list. Look at your list.
So, I have Deep Trouble.
See, I don't remember that one at all. That's one I can't remember if I read it or not. Once you start talking about it, maybe I'll remember.
Deep Trouble is about this kid who goes to visit his uncle, who is a deep sea scientist. His actual last name is Deep. Go figure.
Anybody listening to the audio, I just did like a little eye roll thing.
And he's studying cryptid sea life type of stuff.
Okay.
And what happens is that the kid goes for a swim and gets attacked by a hammerhead shark, but gets rescued by a mermaid.
I don't think I ever read this one.
And what happens is that it turns out that the mermaid... this is why I like this book so much, is that the mermaid is telling the kid, hey, your uncle is doing some really messed up experiments on my kind. And it flips the script where it's about a human monster as opposed to... The rest of these books are mostly the monsters are the monsters.
Okay.
And, I love aquatic horror and I love aquatic sci-fi.
And you just did a presentation about that at school.
Or I would have if I actually did a presentation.
Okay, but, you created it.
Yeah.
You did it for me.
I did. But yeah, no, I remember really digging this book.
Yeah, I never read it.
They did adapt... Well, okay, they adapted it into a TV episode. Yep, it's right there. I love that cover.
That's a good cover.
It's so terrifying. It's very Jaws-like.
Right.
They did adapt it into an episode of the show. However, they call it Deep Trouble. They adapted Deep Trouble 2.
Oh.
So, it doesn't count.
Okay. So, something, though, that when you started talking about this one, that I kind of realized is so many Goosebumps books are about moving to a new place, going to visit somebody, going off to school. There's always, that whole, going side of things. It's not, probably not every single episode, or book. I mean, Stay Out of the Basement. That's, within their house, but they're still going to the basement. I don't know. It's just an interesting little little thing. But anyway, so my next book that I picked is Bad Hair Day. And again, I don't remember a ton of it. I don't remember, like, what the crux of the plot is. I don't remember what the twist ending is, because almost all the Goosebumps books have some sort of, like, twist at the end.
Yeah.
Which is probably another reason why I grew up to love twisty, thrillery type stuff in addition to horror. But anyway, one thing that I kind of noted as I was going through, because my list is also not like in any particular order. It was just like I was going through the Wikipedia, going, "Oh yeah, I remember loving this one," and kind of like putting it in a document. And one thing that I noticed is that almost every single one that I loved, aside from like Werewolf Skin, well, and also another one at the very end here.
Yeah.
They're all things that related to my personal life.
Yeah.
So Bad Hair Day is about a magician. It's hair Hare. And it's about a magician. It's like a kid who does magic, and I know that he deals with like a real magician, but I can't remember where that plot goes. If you remember, you're welcome to chime in. But
it's one of the ones that I don't remember as much. I do,
okay, yeah.
I do remember having this feeling, because like I got the book cover right here.
Yeah.
I remember being very cheated by the fact that it's got this scary looking bunny rabbit on this cover, and I thought the book was going to be about the bunny rabbit.
But it's not.
It's not about
it's about the magician.
fucking bunny rabbit.
And
I felt,
his name is Amazo.
Yeah. So I felt lied to.
But I did magic as a kid. I I did pageants as a kid, and so I started learning magic to do for the talent competition in that. And I did talent shows, I did birthday parties, I did my aunt and uncle's wedding anniversary. So that's one reason that I latched onto this book so much, because I did magic myself.
All right. Well, I did not have that one on my list because I don't remember a whole lot from it. But I figured that one was going to be on there just because of your history with it.
So now we're to an episode for you?
We're an episode to me. So the next episode I think I will talk about is actually Night of the Living Dummy 3. So
undeniably the best of the Night of the Living Dummy
I had
episodes.
to get a slappy thing in here.
See, and I specifically did not, just because when people think of Goosebumps, that is the one that everybody thinks
He's
of.
the
So
poster child
I
for
left
it.
that one alone.
Yeah. I had to put one in there because I don't recall a lot of the original Night of the Living Dummy, except for the fact that original cover, which I don't have here, I'll post it up here, it scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
As a child.
Yeah, no, that was pretty
It's
scary.
just a close-up of Slappy with those whited out eyes, and I was fucking terrified to go to bed at night from that.
Well, don't you also have like a thing about dolls, or is that just your mom? Does your mom have
My
that
mom
thing?
has a thing about dolls.
Did you kind of inherit that a little bit? Because I feel like that was a thing.
I had a little bit of that as a kid. Part of that came from Goosebumps. The other part of it came from... it took me a while to actually watch Chucky movies, because Chucky scared me.
I've still only seen the first one.
We should watch them all sometime. Because they're all consistently good on different levels, except for Seed of Chucky. But even then, that's got some interesting like gender stuff I talked about. Anyhow, I do have the book of it here. I don't remember about how much of the comparison of the book to the show that there was.
Well, and that's an interesting thing that you bring up, because some of the episodes are like almost word for word the same as the books, and some of them are like name alone.
They take liberties.
They're very different.
But I like this one because Slappy's not the only dummy in it, and it actually kind of establishes that there's some weird hierarchy with the dummies, and he's trying to be in command of all of them, and there's a lot of conflict that is going on there. It's also, fun fact, one of the first acting roles of a very young Hayden Christensen.
Yes.
Which I found very amusing.
I meant to make notes about if there was any actors in the episodes that I'm talking about, but I don't think I did.
Yeah, I know, oh god, Ryan Gosling's in an episode.
Yes.
But I cannot remember which one it was. Because I thought it was Cuckoo Clock of Doom, but it's not.
No, it's not. I think it might be the... Shoot. Is it the old age one? No, that was somebody else.
No.
I think that was a kid that was like on Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah.
No, but yeah,
But
he
he's
was
in
definitely
one
on.
of them.
And I
Yeah.
think he might have also been in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? But
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't quote me on that.
But you can tell it's Ryan Gosling because Ryan Gosling looks like Ryan Gosling.
Oh yeah, he doesn't ever like. There are so many actors that like if you see him as a kid and then you see him as an adult, you're like, oh yeah, I can see that's them.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Gosling looks the exact same at 40, whatever he is now, as he did as a teenager.
Well, and also
he looks the same.
I don't think we have this book on there, but it came from Beneath the Sink. Has a actor in it that also has a crossover with Freddy vs. Jason because Catherine Isabel is in both that and that episode of the show. You may know her most as Margot Verger from the Hannibal TV series.
Okay, yeah.
But also Ginger Snaps,
right,
and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like what they did with the third Night of the Living Dummy because it really kind of it made Slappy scary, but it also made it to where there was some way that other dummies could reason with him on a certain level, and if not, then there's just going to be conflict. And I like stories about that where villains have conflict with other villains a lot.
I like that.
But yeah, that's an episode of the show here. What about you?
So my next episode that I picked is A Night in Terror Tower, and that's the one that I have undeniably seen the most.
I strongly considered that one.
It's a good episode, but in addition to it just being a good episode, it's also the only one I had on video cassette. I got it for my 10th birthday or something. I know for sure we got it, I got it right before we went out to dinner at... Did we used to have, a Planet Hollywood here or something?
I think we did.
I don't remember. It was some place like that where there's, memorabilia around, and I know that I went out there for dinner after.
Was it where that casino is now?
That's possible. I don't know. I was a little kid. I didn't drive. But yeah, so that's, a vivid memory I have. But that is the episode I've seen the most, and I still could not tell you a deep plot of it. I know it's a brother and sister, I think, and they get trapped in a medieval tower.
Yeah.
That is full of terror. I remember the cover had the executioner with his little double-headed axe thing.
Yeah, I remember.
Which I'm sure has a specific.
I don't
name.
remember the book all that well, but I did remember that episode of the show, and I remember it freaking me out because at a certain point, because they started to play with time and memory eventually.
Yes.
And at a certain point, I'm like, I don't know what's happening anymore.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I wonder if that's part of it because I have, I have that slight phobia-ish thing of reality is not real thing, and I wonder if part of it's from that episode. Yeah. Because I did watch it so much as a kid,
This is one reason.
I don't know, maybe that played into.
This is one reason I know that the movie Jacob's Ladder would scare the shit.
Yeah, no, I have no interest in ever watching that, and it's also got the face thing. So, nope, off the table, not interested.
Yeah, that's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and this doesn't do face things, but that episode of the show it plays with reality so much. Where I'm like, I'm just nervous because I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah, no, but it was a really good episode. So,
all right, moving
book
on
for
to
you.
Book for me. After that kind of horrifying thing, let's go to something more fun.
Yeah.
Monster Blood 2.
I don't know if I read 2.
I don't have it here, unfortunately. I remember it being a big library borrow for me. But Monster Blood, if you're familiar with the series, it's this liquid that if you consume it, it makes you grow. And the first book is about it happening to, I believe, someone's dog. Yeah.
That sounds right.
And then the second book, this is where it's the most fun. It is about a school classroom hamster.
I thought you were going to say hamster.
And it gets into the water bottle in its cage. And
I remember the cover. I'm picturing it in my head.
And it's the cover's got it bursting out of the wire netting in its cage. I love creature feature stuff. And I love absurd creature feature stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And the imagination that I had at the end of that where also the kid consumes it himself and this giant kid is getting into a fist fight with this overgrown hamster. I love imagining that. Yes. That was just so fucking awesome to me.
No, that sounds fun.
No, I really, when I think of Goosebumps sort of flagship characters, I think of Slappy, and I think of that hamster.
That's hilarious. I remember the cover for sure, but I don't think I ever read that one.
It's funny because that hamster's only in one book.
Yeah.
But Monster Blood, they've done a few Monster Blood books. There's been 4 of them in the main series. I don't know how much they've done in like the spin-off type of stuff, but yeah, Monster Blood 2 is one of my favorite of those books.
Yeah.
So what about you?
All right, so my next one is another one that plays into, the whole things that were associated with my life, which is Phantom of the Auditorium. That one, I believe, had Kevin Zeger, I think was his name.
In
the
the
guy,
episode of the show.
Yeah, in the episode of the show. Yeah, sorry, because we're talking about the book, but I was thinking about the show.
Yeah.
He was in Air Bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was in the episode based on the book.
And the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I remember that because every time we watched that movie, you're like, hey, Air Bud.
I know. Well, because I loved that movie as a kid. But anyway, so Phantom of the Auditorium was one of my absolute favorite books, and that's the one where I kind of fought with myself. Do I want to put it as a book or do I want to put it as an episode? And I put it as a book because that's one of the first books where I realized you could reread a book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I loved to read as a kid. I devoured books as a kid. I would read a couple of books a day as a kid. And I was homeschooled, so I didn't have I had the benefit of some days I could just choose to just read books all day. But that was the first book where I was like, I already read this book, but I really liked it. And so I'm going to read it again.
Do you remember anything about the plot?
I don't actually remember a whole lot. I know that they're doing like a production of Phantom of the Opera at a school, and that there's like an actual phantom causing some wreaking some havoc.
Yeah.
But I don't remember like what ends up happening.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't tell you. But I just remember because I did community theater as a kid, all the way up through. That's actually how we met, was through community theater. So so that was like a big thing for me where it was like, oh, these other kids in this book are, in theater, and I actually really loved the movie Phantom of the Opera, the 1940s version with Claude Rains.
Yeah.
We taped that off of like Turner Classic Movies or something, and I watched that so many times.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you. I watched that a lot. So, so that was a very important book for me in my quest to become a lover of books.
All right. I'll move on to an episode of the show here. And I'm going to talk about Haunted Mask 2. Now, a lot of people, when you think of Goosebumps, Haunted Mask is one of the first books that comes to mind. It's a very iconic cover in regards to that series. I always remember liking the sequel more.
Yeah.
Because the first... both episodes of both adaptations of those books in the show are both really good. And, but I had a harder time with the first set because it was basically about a girl who's a mean girl who learns to not be. In this case, it's about a kid who puts on another haunted mask, and it turns him into an old man, and it ages him up. And as concurrently with this, the mask from that first book has taken over somebody else, and has become the devil on his shoulder. And to me, the reason that I really like the second one so much is that you get to see just how malevolent and twisted that original mask is.
Right.
It really shows you that this thing is not just... It's not just a force of nature. It's menacing.
Yeah.
And it's trying to get you to be, like, evil and hurt people.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember just attaching myself more to that second story more than the first one.
Yeah,
First one
definitely.
is still great, but and they get to the body horror elements of, like, him seeing his, like, hands and skin start to wrinkle as the rest of his body becomes one with the mask he's wearing. And... oh man, it plays on fears I have about getting older and mortality and, what are you going to do with your life?
Right.
No, Haunted Mask 2. I really like that one a lot. A lot of people will say the first one. And
I like 2 better than 1 also.
But
definitely agree. Okay.
So
my next episode is Let's Get Invisible, and that's another one where I kind of fought with myself between whether I should do the book or the episode, and that's why I decided Phantom of the Auditorium for the book, Let's Get Invisible for the episode. And this is one of the ones that I actually remember more of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't remember the whole thing, but it's these kids, and they find this mirror in an attic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a group of kids, and I think it's in one of their houses.
Yeah.
And they realize that through using this mirror, they can turn themselves invisible and then bring themselves back, basically. And as they continue to use it, they start having more and more trouble coming back from being invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about, like, dealing with the repercussions of that and figuring out how to fix it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the ending, but,
Yeah,
I remember I loved it.
No, it's an effective episode. I remember watching that with our nephew when they were over here at one point.
Yeah.
And,
I feel like that might be one that has some people in it that ended up doing more stuff, but I don't remember.
It might, yeah. But that's an effective
Yeah.
episode.
No, definitely.
All right.
All right, your next book.
That because I only got 2 more books left here. I had some debate about this one, but I remember this one just kind of sticks out to me, and it's one of the ones that's not as well known. And that's The Curse of Camp Cold Lake.
Okay.
I've got that one right here. Yep. Very horrifying cover.
Yes, definitely. And that's one of the last ones. That's number 56, and there were only 62. So
yeah, but this one, there's a lot of camp ones, as you'll come to find out. That, you have Welcome to Camp Nightmare, Ghost Camp, Curse of Camp Jelly Jam is another one. Like camps are camp is scary.
Yeah.
As somebody that actually went to camp
I never went to sleepaway camp.
I went to camp, like a sleepaway camp in elementary school in both 4th and 5th grade.
Yeah, we couldn't afford it.
Yeah. That's where I learned how to eat worms. That's how and dandelions and other, arts and crafts bullshit. And
right.
Then you just awkwardly have to explain why you still need to sleep with a nightlight on, even though every other kid has aged out of that.
Oh, no.
Trauma. Anyhow, Curse of Camp Cold Lake is about this kid who is very much insecure about not being seen and not being paid attention to.
Okay.
And she goes to a camp, and she decides, I'm going to go ahead and get attention by getting into this lake, and I'm going to pretend to drown.
Okay.
But the plan backfires, and she has a near-death experience.
Okay.
The problem with that is that there was another ghost in that lake that decides, hey, you were supposed to die, and you didn't, so now I'm going to make sure that you do.
Oh, so we got a Final Destination thing going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it got under... I don't believe in the afterlife, really. I don't believe in... God, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in anything like that. But the idea that something that is beyond your understanding wants you dead it got under my skin.
Yeah.
Like, it really bothered me when I read this one.
I would imagine. And that's one that I haven't read, so maybe I'll have to...
And I don't
read that one with my eyeballs.
I don't remember how it resolves by the end, but like I remember it was I hate to use the term, but it was haunting by the end of it. Yeah.
All right, so my turn?
Yep.
All right, so my next one, and the last in my string of ones that applied to my real life, Piano Lessons Can Be Murder.
I knew this one was going to be on your list.
Well, because this is the one that I talk about when we talk about Goosebumps.
Yeah.
So this might have been one of the first ones I ever read. No, actually, Say Cheese and Die was the first one I ever read.
Which is a classic as well.
It is a classic, and it's not on either of my lists.
No, but I will give a shout out. Say Cheese and Die. I don't have the first one, but I have the second one here. Really good. That's the one that had Ryan Gosling in it.
You're right, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one. But anyhow.
And so sorry to anybody listening to this with earbuds. So anyway, Piano Lessons Can Be Murder was about this kid who I think he found a piano. And so he wanted to learn how to play it, or his parents made him. I don't know. Anyway, point being,
I think it was forced into it. But
yeah. Point being, I think because he just wanted to play it, and his parents wanted him to learn how to play it properly or something.
Yeah.
So they ended up sending him to this, really good piano teacher, who just happened to be really obsessed with this kid's hands and wanted to have them for himself. Not in a like dirty way, but like in a like cutting them off and keeping them for himself kind of way.
Although if you want to read into it,
you could
be early allegory, like very veiled allegory for, predators and stuff
I
like
mean,
that.
you could read into it that way, but
Yeah.
I never did. But
Did you ever play piano as a kid?
I did. Well, I didn't.
There goes Deadpool.
Sorry, I dropped Deadpool.
That's good.
I did. I played keyboard. I didn't play like an actual like piano. So I never learned the pedals and stuff. But I did have like a full. I think it was a full 88 key keyboard. And I learned how to play that, and I mostly taught myself, but I did take some lessons too.
Yeah.
So so that was played into my personal life.
My older brother played keyboard ever since he was like in middle school, I think.
Yeah.
And he still plays it to this day. He's
Right.
really good at it, and
He is.
I really wanted
Yeah,
to
I've heard
learn.
him play it.
I really wanted to learn how to play it, and he just got so impatient with me that he decided not to.
Yeah.
So that's one of the
Yeah.
more discouraging stories of my childhood
Yeah,
relating around that. But we're trying to take my hands.
Well, yeah.
Although
that's,
it's funny the way that you describe it, it kind of sounds like that Futurama episode where the robot devil wants Fry's hands.
I want my hands back. All right.
So TV episode.
And this is probably gonna be your last one because we had a duplicate.
This is my last one, and I think this is a duplicate. It's Attack of the Mutant.
We did both have that.
Yeah. So let's talk about Attack of the Mutant.
All right.
Because I remember the book just being okay.
Did I read the book?
I don't have it.
Okay.
I really want it though, but yeah, I remember it just being okay. I really like the concept of this kid who is really into comic books, and then the comic books come to life, and he has to try to contend with the supervillain of those comic books.
Yeah.
But in the real world, he doesn't actually know what to do.
Right.
I remember it being good in the book. I remember it being much more fun executed in the show.
Yeah.
None the least of which because the actor who plays the superhero that fights the titular mutant is who?
Adam West.
Adam West.
Only the true real Batman.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. And he's really amusing as like basically a Batman parody in it. But it's funny because like the mutant, that story has a weird amount of lore around the book itself because it's that episode of the show. I remember playing the PC game as a kid.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
And that had other villain characters in it as well.
Whoa.
There was a plant dude that you would fight. There was like this weird like little four-legged dinosaur creature you would fight early on. There was a guy that had like tools coming out of his fingertips and had kind of like a big like Joker grin sort of thing.
I wonder if anybody has like an emulator for that. Like,
there might
online,
be
because I want to play it now.
Yeah, you can find footage of it on YouTube.
Okay, well at least I have to do that.
But
that sounds so fun.
But I remember playing it, and it was a very interesting experience.
Okay.
But yeah, Attack of the Mutant.
Alright.
That one sticks out to me a lot. It's a very unconventional choice because it leans into the superhero type of stuff.
It does.
But I like the whole like, oh, this kid's imagination is kind of bringing these things to life.
Yeah.
Which on the flip side, there's a book called The Blob That Ate Everyone, which I don't think gets it right.
Yeah.
Because that's the same kind of concept as well, but I like it better in the Mutants.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I wasn't like really, really into superheroes as a kid, but for some reason I really liked that episode.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever read the book, but I really liked that episode. Up until that point, I think my only like real experience with superheroes was because they weren't as big as they are right now. But I think my only experience up until that point was the old Superman cartoons. The
Fleischer cartoons.
I think so. Yeah. Because I had those on a video cassette with like some Looney Tunes stuff, or not Looney Tunes. Yeah.
It was Looney Tunes because
it was Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
That, and then also there was like an episode of I Love Lucy that had George Reeve.
Yeah.
Reeves.
Yeah, George Reeves.
On it, where like Lucy.
I know it's confusing because
Christopher Reeve. I can never remember which one has the S and which one doesn't. Yeah, there was an episode of I Love Lucy where like she dressed up as Superman for little Ricky's birthday party, and then he shows up, and that was it as far as like my experience with superheroes up until this episode of Goosebumps.
Fun fact: I dated a girl who is a descendant of George Reeves.
Really?
Yeah.
That is a fun fact.
I won't say her name on the air, but she's a very famous TikTok artist. All right. Since we doubled up there, I'm out of TV episodes.
Right, so I've got one episode left.
You want to talk about that?
Yep, One Day at Horrorland, which that one's about basically an amusement park where this family goes, and it turns out that the entire amusement park is actually a big horror fest being run by these creatures called horrors. Mm-hmm. And got to do the whose line is it anyway? Way to say that. Horror. And that was a 2-parter episode. And that's one that I actually read a little bit of the blurb on the Wikipedia because it was about how the episode was different than the book. And that's interesting because I don't think I ever read the book, so I didn't realize that it was different. But I guess the book ends with this family like leaving but getting a pass to come back, and I guess they had to come back. I don't know. But the episode, which is the thing that I'm familiar with, ended with a literal cliffhanger. Like they went to leave and their car got stuck on the edge of a cliff, and then it like zooms out to this couple watching TV, and they just like turn off the TV. They're like, oh, it's over. So that was probably my first foray into the idea of media within media, where it was like the whole idea of Horrorland was that people were watching these things happen. Yeah.
Now it's very meta in that way. Mm-hmm. That could have been a touchstone for you for loving meta so much.
That's possible. And then shortly after that, based on timeline, Truman Show.
Yeah. No, I remember I debated having that episode of the show as well.
Oh, yeah?
For one thing, I really liked the design of the horrors.
Yes.
And I remember having that bumper ending to it as well that was different from the book.
Yeah. And I didn't have that because I hadn't read the book, so I didn't know it was different.
But I'm also just amused by the fact that Horrorland has become kind of this own corner of the Goosebumps universe as well. Like, there are so many Horrorland books. Mm-hmm. Not as much as slappy books, but it's definitely one of the things that it will first come to your head when you think about Goosebumps.
I feel like there might have been a Give Yourself Goosebumps about Horrorland, but I can't remember for sure.
There was definitely a Goosebumps 2000 called Return to Horrorland. See, and I
didn't read any of the 2000s.
None of them. I did, yeah.
I mean, I think part of it for me was because by 2000, I was, 13, almost 14. Well, I turned 14 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And not only was I kind of, like, too old for Goosebumps, although, honestly, I never really thought that way. Like, I was the kind of kid who, like, I watched Winnie the Pooh all through. But also that was kind of the age where I started getting that whole thing where it was getting harder for me to read. I started having more, my ADHD was becoming more evident by that age.
Yeah.
It was already there before, but it was just becoming more evident, and it got a lot harder for me to read and focus, and even short books were hard.
I get that.
That's probably one reason that I didn't pick those up.
All right. Well.
But so.
I will talk about my last book here, and I saved this one for last because both this and the episode adaptation are probably my favorites. Like, if I
I knew this was. I see your list right now. I knew this was going to be.
It's The Werewolf of Fever Swamp.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is such a multi-layered book.
Oh yeah.
Because on the outset, you think it's the story of this kid who moves into this very swampland sort of territory, kind of like a bayou sort of area, and there's a werewolf that is afoul that is messing around with the livestock and messing around with the community, and it does not go in the way that you expect it.
Right.
And it gets very surreal and very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
It is probably the dirtiest that Goosebumps gets.
Yeah.
And it is just I'm always on the lookout for stuff that does werewolf fiction a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it with Werewolf Skin earlier. This one has traditional werewolf in it, but it comes from a place more of the psychological approach to it. And I think that both the show and the book do a really good job of showcasing it. I think the book is better because it has that adage of getting into people's heads.
Right.
But it's really a book that is about kind of ostracization as well.
Right.
And I remember because also there's another Freddy vs. Jason actor that's in the lead of that, Brendan Fletcher, who is he's the guy in Freddy vs. Jason who's like the other mental patient next to Jason Ritter in that.
Okay,
Yeah, he's also in Leprechaun Origins. We don't talk about Leprechaun Origins. But
wait, which one was that?
That's the bad one. The one where it's...
That's the bad one?
They try...
Is that the one where they tried to make it more serious?
Yeah, and they turned the leprechaun into more of a troll creature.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no.
Yeah,
we don't talk about that one.
Yeah.
For somebody that doesn't even like the series, that was like...
Listen,
an absolute... that was below the bar, okay?
You can say that the Leprechaun movies are bad. I won't dispute with you on that. But those are fun bad.
Yes.
This one's not fun.
Exactly. Okay, anyway,
But anyway, Werewolf Fear Swamp, it stuck with me after I read that book and after I watched that show.
Yeah.
It really got under my skin.
Yeah.
And any sort of listening, I knew immediately this was going to be my number one.
Yeah.
Because I think it is the most mature that R.L. Stine has written the series since Welcome to Dead House, which he was still kind of in the mature territory there for a different reason. But this, I think, has the best storytelling of all of his books.
Yeah, no, definitely that's a very good one. And honestly, one of the only reasons that I didn't pick it is because I knew you were going to.
Yeah. No, it's so disconcerting to read.
Yeah. And so funny enough, since you picked that one, the last one that I picked is My Hairiest Adventure, which is kind of also a werewolf story, but not werewolves.
He loves werewolves.
So he does. So this one is about, I believe it's a group of kids who decide to use self-tanner. I don't know why that's a thing. I don't know.
The 90s was a weird time.
The 90s was a weird time. Because I'm thinking back and I'm like, I think I used self-tanner the first time when I was like 12. Like, okay, so, but anyway, so it's like this group of kids that use self-tanner and, they start growing hair on their hands and they're like, oh, maybe it was expired or whatever. And then this one kid notices that his friends are missing and all of a sudden there's more dogs in his neighborhood than there used to be. And for some reason the self-tanner was literally turning them into dogs.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah. I think that one's kind of interesting as this sort of like puberty allegory.
Kind of, yeah.
And it's like, you don't try to force puberty, hold on to your childhood, because like otherwise, like
it might go awry.
Oh yeah,
and then you'll turn into a dog. No, but yeah, definitely. I think it's we between the two of us, we had multiple werewolf and werewolf type stories on our lists. But
I will throw out a couple of honorable mentions that did not make the cut. The Barking Ghost, which I actually have.
I almost picked that one.
I love this cover.
Yeah.
Basically about this story of these ghost dogs that are tormenting these kids, and then eventually start actually they body swap with them.
Yeah. No, I almost picked that one. There was another one I almost picked, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, and I don't think it's over here.
Yeah. By the way, that cover of Werewolf of Your Swamp is one of the most iconic covers.
No, I love that cover.
But so that was one. I also
You're yelling very close to the mic, sir.
You know.
I apologize for him.
Also, Scarecrow Walks at Midnight.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's another one that I almost picked, and then I chose not to because it's
creepy.
It's iconic, but then also it's like the stereotypical, like when you think of Goosebumps, that's one of the ones you think of.
Yeah.
But then there was another one. It was about ghosts, and I don't remember. It's not over here. I don't remember what it was called, but it's one that kind of stuck with me. It was about like ghosts in a cave or something.
Oh yeah, was it Ghost Beach?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I almost picked that one. So that's another one that I remember watching with our nephew that kind of like it hits you.
Yeah.
Like, it hits you hard.
And I think the last honorable mention I'll throw out there is actually Cuckoo Clock of Doom.
Yeah.
You know,
Another classic.
I thought about this one, putting it in the list a lot, and I'm like, you know, like, I don't know how much I can comment on that one exactly, but I do like this whole, you know, you try to play with time, and
Time plays back.
Time plays back, and it's also just about resentment that this kid has for his younger sibling getting more attention than him, and, you know, it's a fun idea. I don't think they really do the TV show all that well of it, because, like, the kid acting is very questionable in that.
Here's the other honorable mention for me, which is How I Got My Shrunken Head. I liked that one, but also, like, with time and information about things, I do wonder how offensive this might be now.
It's...
Like, culturally.
Okay, so that's...
That one and...
is it
this one, which I've never read this one.
Beast from the East.
I'd never read that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do kind of wonder like where that falls as far as cultural sensitivities.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, so there we go. Those are.
Oh, one more I'll throw out there. I do really enjoy Shocker on Shock Street.
See, I don't think I read that one.
That giant praying mantis.
That sounds right up my alley.
I love kaiju stuff. And granted, I think this is a robot, technically, or like an animatronic that's going haywire.
I need to go back and just read all of them, and that way I can read all the ones that I never read. I wonder how many of them are in audiobook form. I'll have to look.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But that's our big Goosebumps spectacular here.
Yep.
We may have gone a little bit long on this one.
Yeah, I don't know, because our audacity is hiding.
geez.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
we're almost to an hour.
This is a very special episode for y'all.
Yes.
Very XL episode here.
Yep.
So, thank you for tuning in to our Halloween special here.
Yep.
Come November 13th or so, we're going to be back to our regular scheduled programming with.
Yep, we're gonna do our best to upload on the 13th every month, but we may not always make it.
Yep, and that will be our Stephen Graham Jones episode on The Only Good Indians.
Yep.
But we might have some other specials down here on the line. We got some birthdays coming up. We got Christmas coming up.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
We'll see what we can do.
What kind of specials we might have.
So,
all right.
As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Mr. Hyperaware, also mrhyperaware.wordpress.com. And if you have any suggestions, you can email us at pagesfromthedarkside, all one word, at gmail.com.
Yep, and it will be in the description box. Or if it's on a social media platform, or like not social media, why did I say that? If I can ever figure out how to get this on audio only format, we will have this information wherever the description is for that and on that platform. And then you can find me on YouTube as the Earbud Bookworm. And our P.O. box will also be listed wherever our email is listed if you wanted to send us some traditional mail, because that's fun sometimes.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next chapter of
Pages from the Dark Side.
This has been a production of Pages from the Dark Side. Sound and video production by Alyssa and Dylan Ludwig. Music and artwork by Aaron Shively.